How can a man burn firewood for 40 years and still be doing it wrong? I will tell you, because I was that man. I had good dry wood, a good stove, and I still smoked up the glass, tarred my pipe, and burned through more cords than I should have. The wood was never the problem. How I ran the fire was. And the 15 things I am about to give you are all about that, how you light it, load it, and feed it air. Because the same cord of oak will burn clean and hot, or smoky and cold, depending on nothing but the man working the stove. That is the one idea I want you to walk out of here with. A fire is not a pile you light and forget. It is a machine you operate. Once that clicked for me, everything changed, and my chimney sweep started finding a clean pipe instead of buckets of tar. I have been heating with wood a long time on my place in central Pennsylvania, and I will be straight. Most of these I learned the hard way or got handed by a neighbor who had already made the mistake for me. Stay to the end, because the last few tie together into a cold start routine that kills smokeback for good. Plus a splitting move a Pacific Northwest logger showed me that cut my hand-splitting effort in half on a tough round. Let me start where every fire starts, with lighting it, because this is where most of the damage gets done. Trick 1. On a cold start, warm the flue before you light the fire. The thing nobody tells you is that a cold chimney is full of heavy, dense cold air sitting in the pipe like a plug, and warm smoke cannot push past it. So when you light your fire underneath that plug, the smoke takes the easy way out, which is back into your living room. You have lived this. First fire of the season, 12 degrees out, and the house fills with smoke while you stand there cussing at a stove that drafted fine in March. The fix is older than any of us. Twist up a sheet of newspaper, light it, and hold it up near the flue opening inside the firebox for 10 or 15 seconds. About as long as it takes to read this out loud. That little bit of heat breaks the cold plug, gets the air moving up, and starts the draft. University of Missouri's Extension Service lists that exact trick in their wood stove guide. It is not folklore. It is physics. Trick 2. Crack the stove door for the first minute. When you first light off, leave the door open just a thumb's width, not wide, just cracked, for the first minute or two. That pulls a strong rush of air across the new flames and gets them up and hot before you close the door and the air control takes over. A fire that catches strong in the first 60 seconds drafts clean the rest of the burn. A fire you seal up behind a closed door while it is still weak tends to smolder and smoke. Just do not wander off with that door cracked, because an unwatched open door is how a log rolls out onto the floor while you are getting coffee. Why does that first minute matter so much? A new fire is fragile. The kindling is throwing off flammable gas, but there is not enough heat yet to keep it lit. And if you choke the air right then, the flame starves, and the load just sits there smoking instead of catching. That cracked door floods it with oxygen and gets the whole load burning before you hand control over to the air vent. You have watched a fire die this way. It looked lit, you closed it up too soon, you came back in 10 minutes to a black box and a thread of smoke, and you had to open it and start over. That is not bad wood. That is a fire smothered before it ever got its feet under it. Trick 3, and this is the big one for your chimney, so if you only take one thing, take this. Burn it hot first, then dial the air back. Most folks light a fire and right away choke the air down to make it last. Wrong order. You run it wide open until the stove and the flue come up to temperature, and only then turn the air down to cruise. If you put a magnetic thermometer on your pipe, a Rutland runs about $15 to $20. You set it 18 inches above the stove, roughly a forearm and a hand up the pipe, and you want that needle up in the burn zone, which on the surface of single-wall pipe is about 250 to 400 degrees, before you damp it down. Below about 250 on the pipe is the creosote zone, where the smoke is too cool to finish burning and it condenses into tar inside your flue instead. A quick hot start drives you past that line in the first 15 minutes. A slow, stingy start parks you in the tar zone for an hour every single fire. The Chimney Safety Institute and every extension office I have read say the same thing. Hot and fast to start, then settle her in. I ran it backwards for years, choking every fire down from the match, and I paid for it, which I will get to. And there is a top end to mine too, so do not overcorrect. Over about 500 degrees on the surface, climbing towards 700, you are overfiring, which warps stove parts and can crack a flue. It is a zone, not a direction. Get her up into that 250 to 400 band and hold her there, like the temperature gauge on your truck. Not too cold, not in the red. The years I ran every fire choked down cold. I burned close to a cord more each winter than I needed, and paid a sweep $200 a visit to scrape my pipe twice a season. Call it $600 a year in wasted wood and cleanings. For a decade, because I had the order backwards. Nobody ever told me the order was the whole game. It is. Quick pause here. Everything I just walked through, and dozens more tricks like it, is sitting inside the Lumberjack's Bible. 126 pages of the stuff that actually keeps your house warm and your woodpile full. The kind of know-how the old-timers spent a lifetime figuring out. It walks you from the standing tree all the way to a clean all-night fire, so you pull full heat out of every log instead of burning half of it up the chimney as steam. Link in the description, QR code on screen. This is the year you stop fighting wet wood and start burning right. Now that it is lit and drafting, how you load it is the next place people go wrong, and these next few are quick. Trick 4. Do not pack the firebox wall to wall. A box jammed completely full chokes off its own air and smolders, which is the opposite of heat. Leave a hand's width of open space above the wood, 4 or 5 inches, about the height of a coffee mug, so the flames have room to roll over the top of the load and the air can move. A stove needs air traveling through it, not a solid brick of wood plugging it shut. Trick 5. Lay your splits north to south, front to back, pointed toward where the air comes in, not crossways. On most stoves, the air enters at the front, down low, and logs laid front to back let that air run the length of them so the whole load lights evenly. Crossways, you get the front burning hard while the back just sits there steaming and wasting itself. Small thing. Big difference in an even burn. Trick 6. Match the split to the job and quit burning one size for everything. For a fast morning warm-up you want small stuff, splits about as thick as your wrist, that catch quick and throw heat in a hurry. For a long overnight hold you want big splits, as thick as your forearm, that burn down slow and steady. Thin wood has more surface for the flame to grab, so it lights fast and burns fast. Thick wood has less surface for its size, so it holds. Most people split everything to one middle size and then wonder why the morning fire is sluggish and the overnight fire is dead by 4 a.m. Keep 2 sizes on hand. My wife asked why I have 2 piles of split wood by the door instead of 1. I said 1 is for mornings and 1 is for nights. She gave me a look. I let it go. You have felt this without naming it. That morning you grab whatever is on top, throw 2 fat splits on the coals, and the fire just sits there sulking while you are trying to get out the door to work. Wrong wood for the moment. Thin splits would have had the kitchen warm before the coffee finished. The wood was not the problem. The size you reached for was trick 7, and most folks have never touched this lever. Work your bypass damper right, if your stove has one. A lot of modern stoves have a bypass. A little handle that sends the smoke either straight up the flue or down through a secondary chamber or a catalytic combustor where the smoke gets burned a second time. And that matters because most of the heat in wood, around 80% of it, is not in the solid log at all. It is in the gases and smoke the wood gives off, and a good stove burns those gases instead of sending them up the pipe. When you reload or cold start, open the bypass so the smoke goes straight up and does not stall the new fire. Once the stove is good and hot, close the bypass so it runs the smoke through that second burn, which is where the clean, long heat comes from. I will admit, I do not fully understand the catalytic chemistry of how that little honeycomb relights the smoke. But the stove runs cleaner and longer with it closed, once it is hot, and that is enough for me to pull the lever. Trick 8. Reload onto a live coal bed, not a dead gray one. The mistake is waiting until the fire is almost out, down to cold ash, and then trying to start over on top of nothing. You get a slow, smoky relight every time, right back in the creosote zone. Reload while you still have a good bed of red coals, and the fresh wood catches off them in a few minutes. Clean. Which sets up the next one. Trick 9. Before you lay the new splits on, rake the live coals forward toward the air inlet at the front of the stove. Pull them into a pile right where the air comes in, then set your fresh wood on top and behind them. The incoming air hits the hot coals first, lights the new wood from underneath, and the whole load catches fast and burns toward the front instead of smothering. Old stove hands and loggers have done it that way forever. It is the single move that turned my smoky reloads into clean ones, and it cost nothing but a few seconds with the poker. Trick 10. Keep your glass clean by running the stove hot enough, not by scrubbing it every morning. That black suited-up glass is not a wood problem. It is a cool fire problem. The University of Georgia looked into chimney tar and found it comes from low burning temperatures, not from any one fuel. Modern stoves run a thin curtain of air down the inside of the glass, called an air wash, that keeps it clear, but it only works when the fire is hot. If your glass is always black, your fire is running too cool and too starved, and that exact same cool, smoky fire is tarring your chimney while it dirties your window. Clean glass and a clean flue go together. The glass is just the part you can see, and it ties back to your wood, too. The EPA's BurnWise program puts the clean line at 20% moisture, about the feel of a slice of bread left out on the counter half a day. And once your wood creeps past 25%, so much of the fire's heat goes to boiling off water that the firebox never gets hot enough to burn its own smoke. So a cool fire and wet wood are the same enemy wearing two coats. Both leave you parked in the tar zone. Look, I am going to be straight with you. Everything I am walking through in this video is just a small piece of what is inside the Lumberjack's Bible. 126 pages, 70 field-tested old-timer tricks. Felling, bucking, keeping a saw sharp, splitting, seasoning, stacking, storing, and burning. All of it laid out plain. The kind of stuff that does not show up in most videos. The stuff that lets a man burn half the wood his neighbor does and stay twice as warm. If you have been watching these and thinking this could finally be the year you get ahead of your firewood, that is the move. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Make this the year you stop burning wet wood for good. Let me get to the overnight burn, because this is the habit that tarred my chimney for years and I want to save you from it. Trick 11. Stop choking the stove down tight to make it last all night. I know why everybody does it, and I am not going to pretend the old wisdom is dumb. You fill the box, slam the air shut, and yes, the wood lasts till morning. That part is true. The trouble is what it costs you. A stove strangled for air burns cool and smoky for 8 hours straight, and cool and smoky for 8 hours is the exact recipe for creosote. I did that for years, every single night, proud of how long my loads lasted. Then a chimney sweep pulled 6 5-gallon pails of tar out of my flue, and when I saw that pile, I about had a heart attack thinking what one stray spark could have done. The better way for a long burn is a deep bed of coals and a couple of big splits with the air turned low but not shut all the way off. You give up maybe an hour of burn time and you gain a clean pipe and a fire that is still alive and hot in the morning. That is a trade I make every night now, and I do not lose a wink over it. Think about that for a second. 6 pails of tar, 8 hours a night of cool, starved smoke, every night for years. All so my loads would last a little longer. I am not going to pretend 3 winters of doing it the better way is laboratory proof. But my sweep finds a clean pipe now, and the morning fire is still alive, and that is enough evidence for me to never go back. Trick 12. Burn the load down clean before you turn in. For the last half hour before bed, open the air back up and let the fire cook down to mostly coals instead of leaving a box full of half-burned, smoking chunks. A clean burn down means the smoky stage is already over before you damp her for the night. You are banking coals, not banking tar. Trick 13, and this one ambushes people in newer houses. Give your stove makeup air. A tight, well-sealed modern house can actually starve a wood stove because the stove is trying to pull air up the chimney and the house is sealed too tight to let any back in to replace it. The tell is a stove that puffs smoke back at you or just will not draft right. And it gets worse the second your furnace kicks on or somebody runs a bathroom fan, because now those are fighting your stove for the same air. The fix costs nothing. Crack a window an inch, about 2 fingers wide, somewhere near the stove. The draft straightens right out. I fought a smoky stove for most of one winter. Blamed the wood, blamed the chimney, blamed the stove, before a buddy in a newer build told me he had the same fight and a cracked window settled it. Felt like a fool. Worked like a charm. Trick 14 is about what you feed it, because some free wood is not worth burning at any price. Never put painted wood, pressure-treated lumber, particle board, plywood, or driftwood in your stove. Older pressure-treated wood was soaked with arsenic compounds, and burning it puts that into your air and leaves it in the ash. Painted and glued wood gives off its own poison, and driftwood is loaded with salt that turns to acid in the heat and eats your flue from the inside out. Same goes for never starting a fire with gasoline or any liquid like it, which extension offices warn about every year because the vapor can flash back up the stream and burn you bad. Free wood that poisons your air or rots your chimney is the most expensive wood there is. One nuance on free pallet wood, since everybody asks about it. A pallet stamped HT was heat-treated, meaning just baked dry, and that wood is fine to burn once you pull every nail. A pallet stamped MB was treated with methyl bromide, a chemical, and that one stays out of your stove for good. Check the stamp on the block. And anything you are not sure about, the rule is dead simple. If it is not a clean piece of natural wood, it does not go in the stove. Your lungs and your flue both keep score. Which brings me to the splitting move I promised. Trick 15. The one hands-on trick in the bunch. A logger out in the Douglas fir country of the Pacific Northwest showed this, and it cut my effort in half on the tough rounds. Instead of trying to bust a big round straight down the middle, which buries your axe and you spend half your strength just wrestling it back out, you work the edges. You stand the round up and you bite pieces off around the outside rim, walking all the way around it. And here is the part that does the real work. As the axe comes down, you give it a little flip or roll in your hands right at the moment it bites, and that twist pries the slab off the edge instead of sticking the head in the wood. It takes some practice to feel that flip. I glanced a few off and stuck a few before it clicked. My aim was the holdup, not the idea. But once you have it, just about every swing pops off a piece instead of burying. Same effort, twice the wood. A heavier, straight-handled splitting axe on a 32-inch handle, about the length of a baseball bat, the old vintage style, works best for it. Not the short, curved one. And here is when this one does not work, because no trick works on everything. The edge flip is for clean, straight-grained rounds, the kind with no knots that pop like they want to come apart. On a knotty, twisted, stringy round, the kind around a branch crotch or a crotch in the trunk, that axe will glance, bounce, and stick no matter how good your flip is, and you will wear yourself out fighting it. That wood wants a heavy maul driven through the middle, or frankly a hydraulic splitter if you have one. I keep a 27-ton splitter for exactly that stringy junk, and I am not too proud to use it. Match the method to the round. Clean wood. Flip it. Nasty wood. Power through it. Here is how it all comes together on a cold morning. And this is the routine worth stealing. Warm the flue with a paper twist. Rake any old coals forward, or lay fresh kindling up front. Crack the door a thumb's width and light it. Let it run wide open until the pipe needle climbs into the burn zone. Then load your splits north to south, leave a hand of air on top, and ease the air control down to cruise. 5 minutes of doing it in that order, and you get a fire that lights the first time, never smokes back into the room, and burns clean all day. The same wood you have always had, the same stove, a different man running it. I have handed that routine to 3 neighbors and all 3 quit fighting their stoves inside a week. That is the whole shift, and it is free. You do not need a better stove or drier wood than you already have. You need to run the one you own like the machine it is. Try the cold start routine tomorrow and watch your glass stay clear past noon. Next time I want to get into reading the smoke off your own chimney from out in the yard, because once you are burning like this, that thin shimmer at the top is how you know you have got it right. Go run a clean fire.